An unidentified shipwreck was discovered in 2001 when ExxonMobil unexpectedly cut through it with an oil pipeline in the Gulf of Mexico. If it weren't for that oil extraction project, it may have gone on undetected indefinitely. Located as deep as 1,300 feet, or 396 meters, the shipwreck site is not easily accessible. The wreck, hidden in the depths for almost 2 centuries, attracted archaeologists from Texas A&M University, which sent robot submarines to inspect the site. The Navy has also contributed a nuclear research submarine to the endeavor. The archaeologists believe the ship, which measures about 65 feet long, was an 1800s wood sailing ship. Yet Texas A&M University researcher Ben A. Phaneuf told the New York Times, quote, "There's bad voodoo out here. Everything that can go wrong has." They've been unable to identify the ship by name. On their third attempt to retrieve items from the wreck, they faced complications with the research submarine's leash, its sonar, and then finally with retrieving a hand-nailed copper sheet from the hull of the wreck using its robot arm. The sheet was torn, without them being able to locate any information on who produced it, before the submarine had to be pulled back up due to the risks attached by the broken sonar. On another attempt, using a Navy research submarine, they lost control of the rover, and its tether was caught in the propellers of the support ship. The rover was destroyed. Then they still used the NR-1 submarine to make sonar maps and record, but its robot arms were too short to retrieve anything from the wreck. On one of the expeditions using the Navy submarine, they were able to locate the stern post where the rudder used to be. It may have had identifying marks, but the submarine's hydraulic system failed when trying to retrieve it. When they went back down, they couldn't locate it again. Weeks later, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration offered to retrieve objects using a research ship from the Sustainable Sea program. When it left the port, debris stuck in a propeller forced it to return. A second attempt saw the propeller lock, which forced them to send the ship to a dry dock for repairs. By then, the time NOAA had allotted to this research project had passed. They came back after working on other missions, only to break their rover's propeller shaft, which almost sunk the ship when it was brought back on board. After repairing it, they sent it back into the water. A few minutes in, the sub had blacked out due to a leak in the electronics system. After all these complications, the research team was in possession of hours upon hours of recorded footage, and only the scrap from the hull's copper sheet, which has no identifying information. The only facts the archaeology team has been able to gather are the location of the shipwreck, that it had 2 masts, and that it was built at some point in the 1800s. The archaeologists from Texas A&M University still hope to make progress on the finding, but so far, the cursed wreck continues to elude scientific conclusions. An underwater field of inexplicable pockmarks lies at the bottom of the sea by the coast of Central California, uncovered in December of 2019. Over 500 square miles, or 1,300 square kilometers of oceanic floor, host around 5,200 pits, which measure 600 feet, or 175 meters in diameter, and 16 feet, or 5 meters in depth. The pockmarks were first identified and cartographed from the surface by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute using sonars. Researchers began looking at the phenomenon closely when the area was proposed for an offshore wind farm. They were then able to inspect them in high resolution, using M. Barry's autonomous underwater vehicle, NOAA, a diving robot with sonars. This robot went 10 meters underwater, revealing smooth and almost perfectly circular pockmarks. It also revealed that there were micro-depressions, on average each about 36 feet or 11 meters wide and 3 feet or 1 meter deep, among the pockmarks, with steep sides and tail-like trails all pointed in the same direction, suggesting that currents could have played a role, or that something was crawling out of the micro-depressions. There were about 3 micro-depressions for every pockmark, meaning there were about 15,000 of these smaller holes. Some were hosting human trash or ocean debris. Usually, holes in the ocean floor are formed by methane gases or subsurface fluids, the presence of which would have cancelled out the option of having a wind farm. Scientists reportedly found no evidence of such an origin on their original analyses of the imaging and water chemistry. Charles Paul, marine geologist and senior scientist with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, stated, quote, "Both the pockmarks and the microdepressions that we found show no evidence of methane venting going on. so the common model for pockmark formation is not working in this site. Yet the theory can't be completely ruled out. Other possible explanations include unknown ocean flora or fauna, soil composition, seismic activity, and even alien activity. No one can tell for certain. It's estimated that these holes may be as old as 400,000 years. More research is needed to determine their origin. In August of 2017, a metal object resembling a starfish was found 10 feet away from the shore during a low tide in Rhode Island. At first, the president of the East Beach Association, Peter Brockman, reported fear that it may be a bomb. He told the Westerly Sun, quote, "We wanted to figure out what it is before we go tugging on it." Responding to reports, the police denied the object wasn't explosive. Theories about what exactly it was ranged from a scientific piece of equipment to an alien structure. Brockman himself reached out to the U.S. Navy, a neighboring wind farm, and the local harbor master to try and uncover what the object was. Nobody claimed ownership. Professors from the University of Rhode Island shared with him that the object may have been part of an acoustic Doppler profiler, a measuring instrument for the speed of underwater currents. After over a month of mystery, 100 people gathered to watch the removal of the metal starfish. Over the course of the 45 minutes it took, the object broke apart, and workers were only able to retrieve a fragmented object that gave away little to no information about its origin. Attempts to reassemble it and analyze it were made, but nothing could be immediately discerned. The object was then reportedly taken to, quote, a secret place. An entire research lab, comparable in size to a car, was stolen from the Baltic Sea. 1,630 pounds, or 740 kilograms of equipment was stolen. The underwater lab, an observatory, was managed by the GMR Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research. It was used to collect data from the ocean to environmental researchers since 1957. On August 21, 2019, the researchers stopped receiving data from the underwater laboratory, so they sent divers to check on it, thinking it was an issue with the connection. Instead, the divers were unable to locate the Buckness-Eck Observatory. The only thing left by the thieves was a shredded power cable. Marine biogeochemist Hermann Bange from GMR's Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research in Kiel said, quote, "When the divers reached the bottom of the sea last week at the observatory's location, they found only the torn-off land cable. It was completely shredded." There's an ongoing police investigation, with GMR asking the public to report any information they may have. The observatory used to be off the coast of Kiel in Germany, within a restricted area. Reports claim that no natural phenomenon, including storms, currents, or marine life, could have moved it. The SEALAB was formed by two heavyweight racks carrying sensors to measure temperature, salinity, oxygen, and methane concentrations next to the power supply. This piece of equipment had an estimated cost of 300,000 euros, with the researchers claiming the lost data is, quote, priceless. While there has been little progress in regards to who stole the research station, the most likely motive was metal trade. Salvaging metal from the sea floor has become a way of life for thieves who plunder vessels, especially pre-nuclear military ships. In 2013, archaeologists located several artifacts at the bottom of Lake Titicaca in the area belonging to Bolivia, relics indicative of a pre-colonial religion. The archaeology team found two medallions showing a ray-faced deity, metal plaques showing a puma-llama hybrid, remains from sacrificed animals, among those the bones of 3 young llamas and a spondylus shell, and 5 objects made out of shells. This last discovery was meaningful, because the area is 1,200 miles away from the nearest spondylus habitat, signifying that the people of the region were trading with other peoples. Furthermore, the finding of these items, which would have been valuable in their time period, was an indication that the worshippers had demonstrated their devotion to their religion by doing away with these items. Jose M. Capriles, anthropologist from Penn State and co-author of the paper revealing the findings, stated the importance of religion for newly formed societies, quote, "These deities that people are creating are becoming institutions that govern behavior." The anthropologists and archaeologists now believe that this new unidentified religion played a key role in the expansion of a population denominated Tiwanaku. In 2019, they released a paper in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences detailing the 2013 discovery and its implications. Paul Goldstein, an archaeologist in the Department of Anthropology at UC San Diego, has said, quote, The Tiwanaku is the greatest Native American empire that many Americans have never heard of. Historians believe the Tiwanaku expanded and thrived until their empire collapsed in 1000 AD. They claim that the empire, which covered parts of Bolivia, Chile, and Peru at its biggest, left almost no military traces due to their focus on religion and trade. Archaeological evidence of their beliefs has been collected through the years, but the details of their religion and how it helped them conquer a considerable chunk of a continent remains a mystery.